In a purple by white cross, we know that the purple parent, because of dominance between the capital P and little p alleles, could either be big P over big P, or could be big P over little p, a heterozygote. And so, when we set up this cross, we have a couple of expectations, depending on which genotype that purple parent is. So this is the big question. We don't know which of those two genotypes the purple parent is. And we're going to find out by looking at their offspring. So let's assume that we see some number of offspring, like 7. If we see all purple flowers, like so, and no white flowers, then what does that tell us about the possible genotype of the purple parent? Is it heterozygote, or homozygote rather, capital P over capital P, or is it a heterozygote, capital P over little p? Well, our expectation for this cross is that if the parent was the heterozygote, capital P over little p, half of its offspring will receive the capital P or purple producing allele, and the other half of its offspring would get its little p allele. So you can imagine that in these forming flowers, let's draw 10 circles representing flowers. In that purple plant's pollen, let's say, half of those plants that result from a cross between the parent on the left and the parent on the right would contain the capital P, and the other half would receive the lowercase p from the father. Okay. Now, the critical thing here is that all of the plants, because mom is pure breeding, only has little p's, we know that the other allele that all of these plants would get, again, given our assumption that the purple flowered plant is a heterozygote, here are the genotypes that we would expect in this cross for all of the offspring. And again, because of dominance, we know that all of the plants that have any capital P alleles, because they're dominant, would wind up being purple flowered P plants. And it's only plants that are homozygous little p that have the recessive phenotype, which would be to produce white flowers. In sum, our expectation, if the purple plant has the heterozygous genotype, is that we would have an even ratio, a 1-to-1 ratio, of purple flowered offspring to white. So when we look at 10 plants in this example, that's 5 purple to 5 white. And now we're going to use this capability of ours to set the expectation for any type of cross in calculating the chi-square value for cases where we see something that's totally different, or maybe even just subtly different from our expectation. For example, what would it mean if we saw 10 offspring, and we don't know the genotypes because we don't know the phenotypes yet? What would happen if we saw 10 offspring from this cross, and they were all purple flowered plants? Would that tell us what the genotype of the purple parent is up here? Remember, the only way we can tell the difference between these genotypes is that the heterozygous genotype has that lowercase p, which means occasionally, when you cross it with a white plant, you should get that combination of two little p alleles that would produce a white offspring. So the real question here is, if we observe 10 offspring and none of them are white, does that mean that the purple parent doesn't have a little p allele, or does it mean that it could have the little p allele and by chance we just haven't seen a gamete carrying that little p allele used yet to produce an offspring? This is where the chi-square test is important. It helps us set a threshold for how many offspring do we need to look at before we decide that the genotype of the purple parent is definitely not heterozygous. Thanks for watching, and please be sure to be in touch if you have any questions.